Hmm. Interesting. My things are not working. There they go. That is so weird. And anyways, let me recombobulate after that. All right. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host Keegan, and this is your podcast for recovery-focused healing from addictions and traumas. I messed that up already. So last time we spoke with our guest, we scratched the surface of what it means to truly wake up. Today, we're going deeper with Kerie Logan, and she is a human consciousness guide with over 20 years of clinical experience. She's a certified trauma professional and an award-winning hypnotherapist who specializes in illuminating the shadow world we all carry. She's here to help us move from the survival mode of 3D living into the heart centered power of 5D consciousness. And we're also going to figure out some of the things that may keep us in our addictions, whether we know it or not. So, Kerie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing awesome. It's been a while since we last talked. Did you have any other epiphanies come through that were something spectacular of the sorts?
I have in some areas because I don't even know if we talked about or covered the area of generational trauma. Did we even cover that area?
I don't think we did. No.
Okay, because that's a really interesting one.
Hmm.
And why that kind of comes to mind is I had a woman come see me
Uh huh.
that had been drinking alcohol since she was 13 years old.
Oof.
Yes. And she tried rehab, she tried every single way to try to quit drinking.
Uh huh.
And she said, I want to try hypnotherapy. I
Mm,
want to try this.
okay.
And when I sat with her and I dived in, I got the sense, by asking the right questions, well, did your dad have a drinking problem?
Mm,
And how did your parents, since you were drinking at 13 years old, how did they handle that?
yeah.
And they not like your typical parents, they just kind of let it slide. They were
Mm,
very I would say neglectful and absent parents, very more focused on themselves and on their career than what was going on with their teenage daughter.
uh-huh.
And at the time when I saw her, she's 28 years old now.
Okay.
And what I did was I did a timeline therapy and I did a parts therapy where I healed those different aspects of her that were craving the alcohol and really realizing that there's a lot more potential for me out there.
Mm,
I don't need to do this behavior, that I can literally just quit it.
uh-huh.
And in what was it? It was like 14 weeks ago she went onto Google and left me an amazing review
Huh.
and pretty much said, I'm a 100% satisfied customer who consulted Kerie for alcohol cessation and successfully quit after one session.
Wow.
Yeah, after one session. And she said, first, I recognized the alcohol problem. Then I tapered back to 1 to 2 drinks a night over the course of about 2 months. On on day zero, I had my last drink. She stayed in bed, she said, for 3 to 5 days, the worst detox possible. And, she knew she had to flip that switch in her brain.
Mhm.
She was doing everything right.
Yeah.
And she listened to the recording and she pretty much said that, she listened every day for a month and it absolutely worked. And she said it was a hell of a lot less expensive than rehab, as she put it, because it was just $125,
Uh-huh.
to quit. And
Yeah.
so it really focuses on, yes, flipping that switch in your brain, because alcohol it can also be a genetic code, as you know, inside the person's body in that, but
Mhm.
also it can be a habit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. And sometimes, like, well, when COVID happened, a lot of teachers began day drinking. I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of students were complaining about, is that really coffee in your coffee mug or something else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so it was really, focusing on, we do create sometimes these really addictive, toxic, habit behaviors. I
Mhm.
just the other day met with a woman that is in a very toxic, abusive relationship and wanted to quit drinking. And I looked at
Mhm.
her and I said, I get the sense that you still need it. I said, because
Mhm.
there's a difference between need and want. If you
Yeah.
need it, you need it. That's it, period. I said, it probably keeps your sanity, right? And she said, yes. I
Mhm.
said, okay, but you need to get to the place to where you want it, because then you could not want it. You know,
Yeah.
you have your different choices. And
Mhm.
so she's dealing with lots of horrible dynamics in this, toxic relationship. And I said, you actually still need it. But what we can do is we can focus on that as soon as you get that first feeling of the edge slipping away,
Mhm.
that first few sips where it's like, oh, it feels great.
Uh-huh.
That's when you're going to stop. You're going to sip it and forget it,
Mm.
and you're going to ride that just slightly relaxed way of feeling, sip it and forget it. And
Mhm.
I've had lots of people be very successful at that until they got to the place where all the drama and chaos in their life was over with. And
Mhm.
then then they were at the place, well, I really don't need it. I'm not
Mhm.
needing it anymore.
Yeah.
And it works fabulously great, because that can be scary too for some people, thinking, oh, can I really do cold turkey?
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of the big things that keep a lot of people out of recovery in general is because the initial withdrawal, the detox, or whatever can be very rough or traumatic, actually. And sometimes it can be really expensive. So that will be something that keeps people out. And I do believe that most addictions actually do start off as habits. I don't really think that
Yeah.
they just kind of pop up out of nowhere, because it's just one of those things. But how do you convince or how do you work with someone to make them not need it, but just want it? Because that sip and forget is really simple, but at the same time, in practice, I think most people that are in some sort of addiction, especially alcohol, have probably tried quitting before, and that doesn't seem to really work. So,
For some people it can, and for some people it can't. But what I more focused on this one woman was having the strength and courage to leave her abusive marriage,
mm, yeah.
to really, to create the distance that she needed to, because that's the thing, is she kept falling into, I would say, learned helplessness.
Hmm.
The person was gaslighting her, making her believe that, well, you won't survive without me. The only
Yeah.
one that really loves you is me. The only one
Mm,
that always there for you is me. And making her basically feel like I can't live without him.
uh-huh.
And I had to share with her, what is intermittent validation, and
Hmm.
why it's so hard to leave them is because it creates a habit forming of this reward and dopamine high, oh, they love me, and then they start pulling back. And I said, what's happening is you're rewiring your brain and your nervous system to expect that. So
Mm.
you eventually get to the place where you're just accepting crumbs and morsels,
Hmm.
and you're always clinging to how it used to be. And I
Yeah.
said, so when you feel that grieving process of, oh, I miss him, I miss him, you're not missing him. You're missing the fairy tale story that
Hmm.
was fed to you.
Yeah. Missing the idea
That's,
of him.
yes, that's really what you're missing. Because I said, real, genuine love is consistent.
Hmm.
It is stable. It is solid. It is never push and pull, hot and cold.
Hmm.
It's never giving you the silent treatment. Love is consistent.
Yeah.
And I said, and it doesn't matter if you grew up in a wonderful home environment, you could still fall trapped to this form of addiction where you
Hmm.
become obsessed with this person, and it's really unhealthy. So for her, I worked more on bringing that part of her before she met him, that was confident, that was strong, that did have a healthy self-esteem, that did feel like I am enough, I'm good enough.
Hmm.
And I really harnessed that to give her the strength to go through the, the legal proceedings that she needs to go through without falling apart and falling into pieces,
Mm.
or just, drowning her sorrows with a bottle.
Yeah. So, do you think that what you really helped her with was tackling her underlying codependency issues, or do you define it as something else?
I would say it part people in some way, some people could label her as codependent,
Mhm.
but there can be mislabeling also,
Yeah.
where sometimes you really are stuck in that situation where and she
Mhm.
even said so. I'm like, because I have a list of all these red flag signs, like he
Mm.
controls all your money,
Ugh. Yeah, no.
all your shopping, all your spending, your credit cards, this and that. And she said, I know.
Yeah, that's
It's
bad.
hard for me to leave him because he has so much control over my livelihood. And I said, yeah, that's where
Mm.
you got to try to get your control back. How can you do that?
Mhm.
And it's hard because in the process, she said she's lost a lot of friends as well,
Mm.
because they think, well, you left them once and then you came back, and
Mhm.
now you're like the wolf, the little kid calling wolf,
Yeah.
and it's like, why? And
Mhm.
I explained to her, this is what goes on with your brain, your nervous system, all of that, that's keeping you stuck in this trauma bonding relationship.
Mhm.
And I pretty much mentioned to her, if your friends were educated about narcissism and toxic relationships,
Uh-huh.
they could understand you better of what you're going through, but they've never been in that scenario. So they're just going to think, you're weak,
Mm.
or you're
Yeah.
staying stuck in an abusive relationship, but they don't realize, the physical things that go on inside of you when you try
Mhm.
to leave.
Yeah. You actually just brought up something real quick that I'd like to kind of get your opinion on. So you said that others might have thought that she was weak because she didn't want to leave the relationship or something like that. But that's
Yeah,
kind of the thing. Whenever we're dealing with people or people that we don't necessarily know, we don't see what goes on behind closed doors.
correct.
So for that, I mean, with so much of the world nowadays, we all know that people cheat on each other all the time. People get into abusive relationships all the time. We know all this kind of stuff goes on. So behind closed doors, and it's not good to assume one way or the other. But what's a good sign that someone could look at and maybe recognize that a friend of theirs is actually going through something that they can't even talk about?
Well, to me, as let's say, as being a friend looking from the outside in, we can see things a lot better sometimes than the other person. And
Mm,
it's really learning how to communicate what you observe, and doing it in a way that the person's not going to feel they're being judged.
mm, okay.
Or, I mean, because that's the most important thing, because she did literally say that her friends just all think that she's weak,
Mm,
and that's a judgment right
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And in reality, she's not weak, but the hard part is she could end up eventually believing their thoughts and beliefs about her, and
Mm-hmm.
then start to model the behaviors of being weak and believing, I can't leave him,
Yeah.
I'm stuck this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I feel, if you really are a true friend and you love that person, you should educate yourself about toxic relationships, because who knows, one day you might end up in one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
And they
if you ever get married and have a kid, your kid could end up in one when they grow up. You don't know, but knowing those warning signs and the red flags, like she didn't know what gaslighting was.
mm,
She didn't know what projection was. She didn't know what stonewalling was. She just learned about what's reactive abuse.
ugh,
And that's the big thing about the legal stuff, is reactive abuse is where someone pushes you so hard that you snap.
mhm,
And the worst thing is, he took out his cell phone and recorded her
mm,
having, a big episode, and
yeah,
called her the abuser, when he
Mhm.
was the initial abuser, and called the cops on her and had her arrested.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it can get.
Mhm. Yeah, it can get really, really bad, and I'm glad that she's out of that situation now, and it sounds like what you helped her really do was kind of rebuild her identity, because if she sits there and listens to the judgment of all her friends and she embodies that belief, then she's going to become what she's afraid of, or she'll become what is not true, And so,
Yes, she
okay.
has identity erosion.
Okay. Erosion. I haven't actually heard it put that way before. Do you mind explaining why you described it as
You
erosion?
lose all sense of self. You
Mhm.
stop loving what you used to do. You stop hanging. You
Uh-oh. It's not my computer, is it? Oh, there we
now
go.
I don't know which one it was, but you just you everything about you changes. Let's say you were like how she said, I used to be confident. I was easygoing. I was
Mhm.
happy. I felt I was enough. Like if he flirted with other women, I didn't care at all. She's like, now I get so jealous and so insecure. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel, inadequate and stupid. And she is in therapy and she's like, I've been labeled with, major depression and anxiety. And
Mhm.
I said, well, actually, I think you have PTSD
Yeah.
because you have been abused. You
Mhm.
literally have been abused to the point where you snapped and you lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I gave her a good example as with, what was it? I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, the Johnny Depp whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
How she filmed him with her phone of him having a big meltdown. That was reactive abuse
Mhm.
right there. If you were a loving, caring partner, you would not get out your cell phone and record the worst episode of someone.
Nope.
You wouldn't push them to that extreme. You wouldn't laugh at it. You wouldn't think it was comical.
Uh-uh.
You would literally stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that whenever those kind of situations pop up, again, it's because hello? Uh, Huh? Carrie? Are you there? That's a new one. Normally, the person just freezes. This time, the screen went black. Um, checking the stream over here. Uh, nope, it's black on the stream too. Carrie, I don't know if you can hear me or what. But she's gone. Uh oh. Riverside. Rah. Mm. It never fails. Never fails. I defend software and I defend companies. And then they go, huh, what do you think you're doing protecting money? All right. Anyways, we're going to sit and wait because I don't know. That was weird. Like her screen went black and then I don't, I don't know. Like it just, yeah. Uh, I, it doesn't show her in the waiting room. Oh, there she is. Okay. Her mic and cam is already in use. Um, hmm. Okay. Sorry, guys. Let's see if this works. Ta-da. Carrie, I don't know if you can hear me, but Riverside has let me know that it says your microphone and camera is already in use and to have me ask you to close all tabs and refresh all apps and tabs and refresh. So I don't know what's going on. That was a new one to me. Like I said, I don't know if you can hear me because you're just a gray square on my screen. Um, hmm, what? This one. Kerie Logan's devices are not accessible. Ensure using Chrome or Edge and ask for browser restart. Carrie, I don't can she see my chat? Can you see what? All right. So, I don't know if she can hear me or anything. Cuz I guess the stream is just going to keep doing whatever it wants to do. Well, that's pretty cool. So, Carrie, yes, you can. Cool. Okay. Um, can you hear me? Um, this is so Riverside. I don't know what you're doing nowadays, man. And hmm, you can hear me. Whoa. Okay. So yeah, Riverside says that your devices are not accessible. I hang on. I've got a website that you can try to go to. It is a Riverside um website, and it's for testing devices, and it'll let you know if there's anything that you need to do or if it's out of your hands even. Like if it's a network issue. So, you may want to close this tab and then and or browser, open that link in another window and then see if that works. I don't know. I think there's another one that isn't tied to Riverside. Give me a second. Webcam test. Yeah. Web webcammictest.com is another one. For anyone out there that's wondering, how do I make sure that this is that way? You just type in test my webcam online. Be careful where you go though, because it could not be a, an actual just local stream. You may be testing it with a webcam stream to someone. So gotta be careful. Carrie says, I think I need to restart my computer. All right. Yeah, if you need to, by all means, we can resume and everything. It is 7 o'clock. So we're at 23 minutes. I think it actually dropped at like 15 or 16 minutes. Okay, I will try to be quick. All right, no worries. I understand how that goes. Anyways, so sure, how do I keep an audience for 5 minutes? I don't know. I've kind of kept an audience for an hour at least. So, I guess podcasting news for the studio. My trusty little light died. That sucked. That was depressing. In other news, rocks are cool to keep in your pocket from a person that likes rocks, at least. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, we will find out more about trauma bonding of sorts and rather why it's bad, uh, toxic relationships, and like um, Riverside. You're being weird, man. I don't need another incense. Meh. That's something I kind of want to get to is like have the incense way over there so I can still smell it, but it doesn't come wafting in like a genie or something. So, dude, man, I was not ready to have that call drop and in such a spectacular fashion too. Um, what the heck? That is strange. Riverside, Windows, both of y'all on everything of mine lately is ugh. Google, you're there too. I hate to admit it, but you are. So, we're if anyone is sticking around, just waiting for this to turn into something different, I don't know what to say because I don't know what to expect either. We're just here. So, oh, I know what's also new. I have a thingy to stand on at my desk. It's a little wobble board. It's pretty cool. It's an anti-fatigue. I'm not doing it right now though, because it'd be a little weird seeing me on camera just doing this the whole time. So none of that. You know, and it's weird. It shows that there's someone currently watching. I have no idea who that'd be. If it's me, thanks me. If it's anyone else out there, thank you. I don't know what you're expecting, but this is I really appreciate it. So let's see. Oh, I know what's also new. Labradorite. Yeah, new microphone accessory. That was a gift from my aunt Paula. So it is also like this labradorite, but it's pretty and it's wrapped, which is really cool. So you know, here, let me pull up my email just in case she decides to email me. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Tuh. All right. Yeah. Wow. Did my tricep just jiggle? Shaw. Yes. Ew. Come on, me. Ugh. Stop. Just work out more often. I already kind of sort of do. Not as often as I should. Her recording failed to start. Ask to refresh the page. Try again. Oh. Um. It didn't even. That's also a new one. That's also a new error I have not come across yet. Riverside. The fuck? Uh. Ah. I've seen the other one before where they just kind of, hey, 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 there she is.
I
Oh
don't know
boy.
what is going on.
I have no idea either. I really don't. That both, like I said, that was a new one, and right before you popped in, it gave me another one I haven't heard before about saying that your recording hasn't even started. So it shows that you're recording, but I don't know if I trust Riverside or not. But we'll see. So,
Do you want
um,
to reschedule this, or because
I mean, we can if you want. I'm checking the stream right now to see if you're actually popping up. You are. So I want to say that we're good if you want to keep going for a few minutes.
okay? We can go for a
Okay.
little bit more. I totally
Yeah.
forget where we left off too.
So we were talking about how whenever she was in a toxic relationship, she was actually going through a lot of identity erosion.
Yes.
hmm
Yeah,
So
so it just changed her whole sense of self, and that's the hard part is when you go to a therapist and they say, well, you're diagnosed with major depression, you're diagnosed with anxiety, but a lot of times it's like, well, and they know the history of abuse, wouldn't you then assume because she's in a trauma bonding relationship that she possibly does have PTSD?
Yeah. The PTSD. And you real quick, some people have gotten mad at other people for saying that they have PTSD, but they never went and served in the military. And so
Oh, you
that's
don't have to.
no, I just want someone to like help explain that people don't have to go and put their life on the line willingly to get
Yes.
PTSD.
Your house could catch on fire and you lose everything.
hmm
There could be an earthquake and you could get in a car accident. You could get in a sports injury. I mean, think about all those athletes that have their whole future ahead of them and then they get in a sports injury and they can't play anymore.
Yeah.
That's trauma.
Yeah.
There's drive-by shootings.
Mm-hmm.
There's community, there's violence in communities. There's
Yeah.
plane crashes. There's like, I think there's 17 different ways people can be traumatized. You can be traumatized by a bully.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could actually get, slight trauma from indirect trauma. And I'll give you an example of that
Okay.
is one time I was leaving Tahoe and heading back to Northern California, and I saw a guy in a motorcycle that got clipped by a car, and the motorcycle flew right under an RV.
Uh.
And the guy that hit him drove off, and we all pulled over. This guy was pinned underneath the wheel of the RV. I
Wow.
had nightmares for
Ugh.
weeks after witnessing that guy in so much pain and agony, because I knew as soon as they moved the wheel, he was going to die.
Mm.
He was in one of those situations where it was like it had him crushed
Mm-hmm.
so bad. And that's traumatizing. Even someone telling a horrible story could traumatize a kid. I mean, I'll give a good example, and it's going to sound ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was little, my dad would take us to see Jaws and Piranha and all these horror movies. And I used to be afraid sometimes to even swim in the swimming pool, afraid a shark was going to get me. And I know it's unrealistic, but as a kid, I
Mm-hmm.
thought there might be piranhas in the swimming pool or some kind of, I know I can laugh at it. Or there was that movie, It's Alive, when
Mm.
this crazy baby came you know, out of the bushes and attacked you. And as a little kid, I was afraid at night to walk by bushes.
Uh.
Some little baby kid's going to come out and get me. I can laugh at it now. I can.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, I was pretty darn serious.
Yeah. Yeah, because whenever we're young, we don't necessarily know, quote unquote, what's real and not real. And a lot of
Yes.
the time, our subconscious doesn't really know what's real and not real either. So those imaginary scenarios we feed ourselves kind of feed the bad fires too, right?
Right. Yes. So, yes. So when it comes to PTSD, it doesn't mean you have to fight in a war. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even just being a victim of war, the children, the mothers, the people that lost their family, that can give
Mm-hmm.
them PTSD. That can be super traumatizing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so do you think that PTSD is something that kind of plays a crucial role in that identity erosion? Because it sounds like a lot of veterans, whenever they come back from active duty, they kind of have a loss of purpose, maybe. Maybe they don't actually have an identity now.
Well, it's hard for them to relate to their family, to their
Hmm.
friends. They don't know how to talk about it, the things they've seen and witnessed or done. I mean, they do experience, a lot of them do experience PTSD.
Hmm.
It's very challenging because they want to open up and they know they need to open up and talk about it, but sometimes the things they've lived through and experienced is so gruesome, it 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 could alter the way the person views them,
Mm.
because sometimes the military makes us do things that can go against our morals, values, and ethics.
Hmm.
And they're saying, well, you're saving the country, but killing a child would be really hard to do.
Yeah.
And even if that kid had a weapon aimed at you, you don't want to kill a kid, but it's like who's is it your life or that other? And that's the hard thing in war, is
Hmm.
they're using kids,
Hmm.
against people, because you're less likely to hurt them or harm them. But these kids, they're groomed and conditioned at such a young age to be these warriors,
Hmm.
and to think of people as objects, not human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, real quick, going back to that, identity erosion aspect. So, how do people start to rebuild their identity after they've been through some trauma or are in that toxic relationship of sorts?
Well, you have to realize that healing really does happen in layers. And the
Okay.
best way to describe it is, when you think about that iceberg in the ocean, you only see the first 10%.
Yeah.
The 90% is down below. So the
Mm.
first 10% is going to be really hot. You
Mm.
are just you could be super depressed or super angry, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
But when you start to talk about it and you start to focus on healing, you chip it away, you chip it away. Your nervous system readjusts, the brain rewires, and then that other 10% floats up.
Mm. Okay.
And then when you got to think about it, when you look at that new percent up there, you're
Mm.
looking at it with fresh eyes. You're not
Mm.
as hot anymore. You're not as angry anymore. You're not as depressed anymore. You're not as reactive anymore. And then you look at the scenario differently
Uh-huh.
and you chip that away and you chip that away. And then you let your nervous system adjust and
Mm.
acclimate again. And then a
Mhm.
new part comes up. And the best way that I, described it, because my kiddo did experience PTSD, is
Mm.
I said in the beginning, you hated your dad. You wanted to kill your dad. I mean,
Eh.
you just hated everything about him. And
Mhm.
now, 2, 3 years later, you're talking about forgiveness.
Mm.
You're talking about, you know what he did was wrong, but you understand that he was parenting the way that he was parented,
Yeah.
and he was doing the best that he could at the time. And two, my son has autism, you were masking, so you were not being authentic and real in front of him.
Mhm.
And so he went off of that perspective,
Mhm.
when you really should have been honest with him and said, hey, I don't like this, or this and that. And but yes, it took him a long, long time to get from way up here to have everything float up to where he could talk about forgiveness, where he could say, I love you, but realize I love him, but I don't like him.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
takes a lot of growth and a lot of maturity for someone to go. But yeah, my son had identity erosion. He stopped doing all the things that he loved to do. He ate his emotions. He gained almost 100 pounds. I mean,
Mm.
it was very hard. And now he's a skinny mini. He lost all the weight and all that. Doesn't binge eat. But
Mhm.
it is a process, and you have to be patient with yourself, because a lot of us want instant gratification, instant change.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really not. And whenever we're talking about healing and stuff, you'd mentioned in our last episode that it doesn't have a timeline. That there is no
No,
time, and we can't really expect it to kind of play to our rules. And that's kind of the hard thing to do, right? Because whenever we know we have to do something to change things, if we're too afraid to even start, how do we start? Like, do we just get pushed off a cliff or something?
no, I say really more focus on self care and
Mm.
focus on journaling and really becoming more of an observer instead of a reactor. So
Mm.
when you're around a certain person,
Uh-huh.
you learning, how does this person make me reactive and triggered and defensive,
Uh-huh.
or is this person nurturing and caring and supportive?
Mm.
And right there, that's an answer there. That person isn't along your healing journey, because
Yeah.
they're going to keep triggering you and keep, making you, let's say, have addictive behaviors or doubt yourself or
Mhm.
feel like you're stupid. I should be healed by now, but I'm not.
Mhm.
And so it is having that, discernment of who is your support system and who is not.
Yeah.
And then I always tell people, it's so important, yes, to get into therapy. And some people hate that because then they think they're broken and stuff,
Mhm.
but you're not. It is so healing. The most important thing is, it is healing to talk to someone about what's going on. But the most important thing is, do they give you homework? Do
Mm.
they shift your perspective? Like,
Mhm.
can they take you out of what we talked about, the 3D thought patterns of fear, irritability, anxiety, nervousness, guardedness, anger? And can they get you to a place where you have a courage to view it differently?
Mm. Okay.
to where you can look at it is, what is the lessons I was supposed to learn?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't learn the lesson, you're going to recycle and repeat, recycle and repeat. So you got to literally go within and see, what did I let slide?
Mm.
What did I excuse? How
Mm.
did I gaslight myself?
Yeah. Oof. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because sometimes we do gaslight ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's really getting real and raw with ourselves and having the courage to do that, but then also showing you compassion and you forgiveness and you acceptance, because at the time you did the very best that you could with the information you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it really is taking one day at a time. And I know hypnotherapy is great. I've worked with I worked with a Catholic nun that had PTSD,
Mm.
and and she even said, I can't, she tried doing the trauma healing at the church, and it made it actually worse, where
Mm.
this woman, this is a sin, but she literally tried running through a glass plate window,
Oh wow.
full on glass plate window, and it did not shatter. And she knew that was a sign from God. And someone in the community said, no, you need to go see Kerie.
Mm.
And so she saw me, and in 2 sessions, her PTSD was gone.
Oh wow.
She literally took me to the monastery and showed me the glass plate window that she tried to run right through. And she's
Mm.
like, this is it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I would have shattered that if I ran through that.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
But it was interesting, Keegan, because the time when she met me, when you think
Mm-hmm.
about energy and alignment,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had PTSD
Oh
and
wow.
she had PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, we ended up healing ourselves, because I was ready to quit my practice after what I experienced.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and everyone was very surprised that I was ready to do that, because I almost lost faith in humanity. I mean, I literally almost did. And
Mm.
that's why I wrote the book, The Undetected Narcissist. That's why I created that, the podcast, the website, to protect children and to save lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I experienced and my son experienced, I found out from another author, is a crime in other countries.
Oh
It
wow.
literally was a crime. Yeah.
Huh.
But over here, it happens all the time.
Uh-huh. So, what part of it exactly was the crime? If it were to be like, if someone were asking for the specifics, because I
So what
mean,
the specific was
mm-hmm.
is, our son has autism, and when a child, when the courts don't know about autism or mental health or even, trauma, what would happen is our son would go to his dad's house and would mask and pretend that everything was fine, but he
Mm-hmm.
was doing that to avoid being abused.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but then he would come home and he'd fall apart,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he'd have behaviors at school. So when he dragged me into court, he
Mm-hmm.
pretty much convinced the judge that, well, if this child lives with me, all the behaviors will go away.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge actually bought that.
Huh.
Even though my son sat in the judge's chamber and said, please don't make me live with him. Please, he's mean, he's abusive, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't believe him because of all the behaviors that were reported at school and stuff.
Wow.
And my son will admit to you nowadays, I mean, this was when he was 11 years old. He's almost
Uh-huh.
18, but he will admit that he actually in some way manifested that, because he
Mm.
was so terrified that his
Yeah.
father was going to do that, that it ended up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not until, I mean, I lost custody for 8 months of him,
Mm.
and it got so bad and so ugly that when he went back to court, um, I had a friend that was sitting there, and she pretty much said the judge, she could see tears in the judge's eyes, because he confessed, I ruined this child. I ruined the relationship with this child, and he should return home to its mom. And the
Mm.
judge realized that it had nothing to do with the kid. It had everything to do with me, because he was a covert narcissist and he plotted for 5 years how to perfectly destroy me.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Man.
that's the hard thing about narcissism is there's several different types. It's
Mhm.
not just the grandiose one that, you think is dangerous. The covert
Mhm.
one is a lot more because they're the cold and silent type.
Mm. Okay. Cold and
Yeah.
silent narcissist, huh?
Yes.
Oof. Real quick, the website you said was The Undetected Narcissist, correct?
Undetected narcissist. And the book is under Angela Meyer, and that's the pen name that I picked because not many people want to write a book about that and put the real name on it.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you because that's one of those things is that a lot of people that may exhibit narcissistic behavior don't want to be labeled that, because it's so negative that people will sit there and try to uh do everything to not be portrayed as that, right? And so is that why they're kind of undercover?
Well, why I would say it was undetected was I didn't know what it was. I mean, I didn't know. The judge didn't know. The attorneys didn't know. A lot of people didn't know what the heck was going on. And
Mhm.
I even at one moment had a child psychologist say to me, "I think your ex is a narcissist."
Hmm.
And when I looked it up at the time, the only definition was the grandiose that I could find. And I thought, no, he's quiet and nerdy and shy and he drives
Mhm.
a violet Kia. I mean, that's not he had none of the traits of grandiose. But
Hmm.
when I looked up the definition of the behaviors, like what's gaslighting, what's love bombing, what's hoovering, what's baiting, what's projecting, stonewalling, silent treatment, all identity erosion. It
Mhm.
was like all the bells and whistles were going off. And I was like, oh my God,
Mm.
this is what's been going on. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
I
And
got duped.
yeah, and that's really hard to kind of deal with, because aren't you the person that was supposed to help other people out of those kind of
Yes.
situations?
Well, no, that was before I was helping people, but once I started educating myself and taking all the training that I could, then it's like, no, I did it first to
Mhm.
help heal me,
Yeah.
to educate me
Mhm.
because I was completely in the dark, and yes, that's why I said it went undetected. I had no idea.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
idea. But the thing is that's interesting is why I created it and why I wrote the book is because everyone that I went to look for help or advice came from the mindset of hate, anger, and fear. And
Mm.
I know from my practice, you cannot heal completely coming from that perspective. That
Mhm.
is a victim mentality. I want to heal. I come from love, light, and wisdom.
Mhm.
And so I remember one night lying in bed, and what speaks to me said, do you know you humans create narcissistic people?
Yeah.
And I thought, what? And it said, look it up. And we actually do.
Mhm.
It's by three parenting types: the authoritarian, the neglectful, the absent parent. Then there's bullying, trauma, and child abuse.
Huh.
It
Real
said to low browser storage. I don't know
yeah.
what is going on.
I don't
But
either.
we can wrap this up because this is about to crash probably.
All right.
One hot mess, Keegan.
Oh man. Well, we can always reschedule for later, and so hopefully the stars align a little bit better, so that the technology, fairy wizards, trolls, whatever, are a little bit more cooperative. But we'll see you back on in the future because yeah, it actually does not show you recording, and I don't know if it shows you on the stream now either. I'm
I
actually
don't it
curious
says
myself.
I'm at 72% upload, but
Huh.
now 73.
Yeah. So you may be on stream, but it may just not be recording because from what that notification said was that your browser storage, like your cache, is a little full. So uh, I
And I
don't know.
clear all that stuff with CC Cleaner. I mean, I
Mm,
hardly ever use this laptop. I only use it for for interviews, and I haven't
mm,
had an interview in over a month. So I
mm.
kind of don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think Riverside may just be messing up. It's one of those things. People started letting AI write all the coding for their programs and stuff, and it's just breaking stuff left and right. So I wouldn't be surprised. Um,
Okay.
but we can see you back on in the future, and we'll tackle more about these undercover or undetected narcissism that people seem to have, what creates it, and what we can do to help us out of that. Because I think that that kind of stuff will definitely drive someone into addiction, or worse.
Well,
So,
yeah, it does. It drives you into all different kinds of addictions because you're escaping the horrible reality that you just realized you got duped.
mhm,
You
yeah,
know, you're now in a toxic relationship. You're now in a trauma bonding relationship. And how do you get out of it? And that's the hardest part is now your nervous system is wired for it.
mhm,
It's
yeah,
wired to the chaos. And so when everything calms down, it does feel like a mini death.
mhm. Yeah. And I think that that can be the part that's really hard for a lot of people to really understand and accept whenever it comes to dealing with change of sorts, because getting out of a bad relationship, a part of you dies in a sense.
It does.
Hmm. So it takes the time. It takes some time to get reacclimated with yourself and then those around you. I think, you know.
Yes, it does. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, we'll be able to see you also at the mastertheupperrooms.com.
Yep.
And everyone out there again, the undetectednarcissist.com as well. So we'll see you in the future. I'm trying to think. I don't know how I'm going to work this episode into a published one. I'll figure something out. But, because if you have any last words, they're not going to get recorded. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of weird part. But if you got any last words, go ahead and let them out. Because if anyone's watching right now, they'll be able to hear it.
Oh gosh. I don't know. It's just it's
It's silly. It
yeah,
is silly.
it's silly. I'm just like, just have a
Eh,
great day. Everyone
yeah.
just have a great day. Be safe, be happy, you know, just yeah, enjoy life.
Yeah.
There's so much beauty in the little things. There's so much more beauty in the little things.
Hmm. Yeah. There really is.
There
And
really is.
yeah, I think we just need to take that step back, breathe,
Slow
and
down.
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Uh, well, Carrie, thank you very much for being on the
Thank you
show
so
today.
much,
Of
Keegan. And I
course.
hope you have a wonderful and blessed rest of your day and weekend.
Same to you and same to y'all out there as well, those
Yes.
who are listening. And we'll see y'all in the next episode of Retrieving Sanity. And hopefully, Riverside decides to cooperate this time. So, with that being said, everyone out there, don't forget
Okay.
to try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you got to love
Yes.
yourself first. And got a mental health crisis, dial 988. If you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can call the Trevor Project up in Canada, and we will see y'all next time. But
Yeah.
stay safe. Much love.
Yeah.
Schla